Everyone, I'm Allie Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I am playing with some of our newer beads. We're going to be using the DiscDuo beads, which is our 2-hole disc-shaped beads, and then also featuring the new Arcos bead, which is a new 3-hole bead that has kind of that half-moon shape. If you need any of the materials to make this Valyrian Love Knot design, which you can turn into earrings, pendant, or a bracelet, you can look on the left-hand side here. We'll do a little drop down listing all the different materials that are used for the design. You can click on there and order from me at PotomacBeads.com, or you can take it to your local Potomac Bead Company store, gather some materials, as well as if you want to, you can share this video with a friend, gather them materials as well, or make it for someone also. The cool thing about this design is really it's made in component pieces that are added together. So you can make it as earrings, you can make it as a pendant, you can make it as a necklace piece or a bracelet. So it's a really good variety because it is made with component pieces. For the colors that I'm choosing to work with, for my example pieces here, which were just some earrings that I made, I did use the Crystal Labrador Fool Arcos bead. They're those half moon shape beads as well. And each component takes 6 of those beads. For the earrings total, then you're going to need 12 of those Arcos beads. For the DiscDuo color that I used, I'm using the Crystal Marine Metallic Ice. And I used 3 per earring, so 6 altogether for those if you do want to do the earrings. And then 2 different colors of 11 or 15 O's, and then just some Swarovski crystals in 4mm or 3mm rather, crystal AB, and I'm using the Preciosa brand actually. When you're looking at the sample piece, then differs from the actual bracelet piece that we'll be doing. I switched out my blues for some pink, so I haven't really played with the metallic ice colors at all in the DiscDuo, so I decided to stick with those. And instead of using the marine blue, I'm using the pomegranate. So that's a fun pink color. On one side, it has that shimmery look, and then on the other side, it almost has a mirrored look that you can see through it and it reflects the light. For the bracelet, I'm going to be doing 5 components, so basically 5 earrings working together, and we're linking them together at the DiscDuo portion. I did 3 links already for the middle of the bracelet, just to show you how it looks basically all linked together. So for each component piece that you're using, think about the fact that you're going to be using 2 beads, one before and one after. I'm using 5 component links, so I'm going to use about 10 of my DiscDuo beads. For the components, I'm using the Crystal Labrador again of the Arcos bead, and the Arcos we need 6 again per component, so you're looking at a total of 30 if you want to do the bracelet along with it. The 2 15-0 colors that I'm using here in the example are the Galvanized Dark Yellow Gold in 15, and then I'm going to be using the Dyed Transparent Wine 15 11-0s as well. I'm sticking with the Preciosa 3mm Swarovski crystals in that crystal AB. I could use a Potomac crystal as well. You could put another gemstone in there, just do all seed beads. So you can change up kind of the middle a little bit that you're working on. The last bead that I have thrown in, because I think it makes a nice statement here in the middle and at the ends, is an 11-0 seed bead. And just like I'm using the Arcos in the Crystal Labrador Fool, I'm also using my 11-0 seed bead in the Crystal Labrador Fool. To close off my bracelet, I am going to be using a cup button, and the cup button is the crystal, it's the silver Labrador, and then it has that rainbow AB on it there, and I'm going to be holding that together for the bracelet. For the earrings, if you do want to make earrings, you're just going to need some wire protectors and some ear wires, and I'll go over as we create the design where you would add those in case you want to stop at earrings versus where you would go to actually add and continue going for a bracelet or a necklace design. This is a 2-needle project, so we're going to be using 2 size 10 beading needles. If you want to use 11s or 12s, you can do that as well. I just prefer the size 10. And for the size thread that I'm using, it's 0.006 wildfire beading thread. Because I am using the clear crystal, I am using the white thread. To get started with a component, we're actually starting on the side of the component. So you want to kind of think about it. Here's the length of the piece. We're actually going to be starting with it here to the side and kind of building up the side. To get started, you will need piles of all of your materials laid out, ready to go. And I'll show you how to do the first component, which is going to attach the clasp to the very end. From there, I'll show you how to connect two components that are already existing, and then also how to do the end component as well. I also have near me my thread burner. I'm working on a bead mat, and I have some super new glue handy to tie off and to glue down some thread ends. So to get started, I have 2 needles on about 30 inches of my thread. So 1 needle on each end of the thread. And I have 6 of my Arcos beads sitting here, my little piles of my DiscDuos, 15s, and so forth. I'm actually going to be starting this component here on the side. To start on the side, I'm going to start in the center of the very base U there of the Arcos. Putting on one of the 15-0s, I'm putting on that galvanized dark gold on one of my needles and letting it drop down to the base of the thread. I'm then going to put on my first Arcos bead, and I'm putting that on with both needles going through from the center of the curve to the outside of the curve in the same direction. I'll even out my needles then and make sure that that 11-0 gold bead sits right there, nice and in the middle of the Arcos. Coming out the end of the Arcos then, we're going to start kind of that seed bead trim, and I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15-0s on each needle, one on the left and one on the right. Letting that drop down next to my beads then, I'm going to take one of the needles, because the Arcos has 3 holes, I'm coming out the center hole, and one of the needles is going to go down the hole towards the right, and the other is going to go down through the hole towards the left. That's going to decorate the bottom there with just 3 beads on either side, going through like a watermelon here. If you're looking at a watermelon slice for the Arcos, that 11-0 seed bead is just going to sit right in the middle. What I'm going to do now is build the center here of our knot, and I'm going to put, if you need to, you can put your Arcos kind of laid out here, exactly how you have to pick them up with your needle in order to get your design. I'm going to pick up the Arcos on the right hand side, going through the right hand hole when I have it kind of sitting like that watermelon. Left hand needle is going to go through the left hand hole of another Arcos. Let those beads then fall down next to the first Arcos, and they're going to sit right in the side right there of my DiscDuos. Before I put in my DiscDuo, I'm going to put on 1 of my gold 15s on each needle, let those drop down, and then I'm going to pick up my first DiscDuo here. The DiscDuo, I'm going to pick up that the mirror side is facing up, so that way I can see through that pomegranate color, and push that down next to that grouping of 3 Arcos. Separating the needles again, 1 15 goes on each needle, and then I'm going to mimic the Arcos from the first side, except these are going to face in towards that DiscDuo that we just added. So the Arcos here are going to fit, that the watermelon is now facing upside down. On the right hand side, I'm going to go through that right hand hole. And then on the left hand side, I'm going to pick up another one and go through on the left hand side. Once those beads are down in place on the right and the left, you can see that they'll just kind of flop around until we get our next beads in place. And we're going to add our final Arcos here to the top, going through on the right hand side, the right side of that upside down little slice of watermelon, and the left side is going to go through the left hand hole of the Arcos. That leaves, oops, wrong needle here. That's going to leave the center hole actually open to work with, and that's how we're going to decorate some of those ends. Pick up this other needle here. To get to the center of the hole, what I'm going to do is use this opportunity to put those 3 seed beads, just like we did with the 15 O's on the bottom, right there at the top. So I have 3 of my 15 O's on the right needle and the left needle both. And then I'm going to come down through the center hole of the Arcos with both needles, coming out towards the DiscDuo. Once through that center hole, we're going to grab a 15 gold. I'm grabbing this with my right needle, going through one direction. With my left needle, I'm going to crisscross through that same bead. Pulling nice and tight, that gold bead is going to pop right down there in the center of that Arcos. It's also going to pull any thread that may have been exposed as you were working with it. The needles then come back up through that same center hole. So that bead almost works as an anchor or a stop bead there in the middle. When I go back through the middle hole of the Arcos, you want to make sure that we're not going back through that gold 15. On the sides then, I'm going to separate my needles. On the right hand side, the needle is going to go down those 3 beads that I just added and out the side. Left hand needle, same thing, down those 3 15s and out. When you're coming out to the side here, we get to add some more of our 15s. This time we're going to add 5 to jump from our first Arcos to our second grouping. So 5 of the 15s go on, and I'm going to go down through the center hole of the Arcos closest to the DiscDuo. On the left hand needle, same thing. 5 15s, and down through the center of the Arcos. When I get to the center of the Arcos, we're going to add in our crystals. So I forgot to mention at the start, you do need 2 per component. So if you're doing the bracelet of 5, you'll need 10 crystals. The pattern is 15 in gold, and then my wine color, crystal, wine, gold. It's going to sit right in between the Arcos there. Taking my needle from that top Arcos to the bottom, I'm going to also go through the center hole. Since it's done on the left or right, I'm also going to do it on the left. Most times that you have 2 needles, it's a mirrored act that anything you do on one side, you're also going to do on the other side. Down through the center hole of the Arcos. As I come out the bottom there, through the center hole of the Arcos closest to the DiscDuo, I'm going to add 5 seed beads, just like I did to bridge the gap from the second set of Arcos to the first set on the top. I'm going to do the same thing here at the bottom. So 5 of my 15s go on, and my needle on the left is also going to have 5 go on. Now that the 5 15s are on both sides, the needle that is on the right is going to go through those 3 seed beads there at the base that we put on first and come out. At the bottom, I'm going to add a gold 15 and go through the 3 on the left-hand side as well and bring my needle out. The needle then that is on the left-hand side with those 5 seed beads hanging out is going to go through those 3 seed beads closest to it and the gold bead that we just added, and then down all those beads there, the 3 original and then the 5 that I just added on the right-hand side. So it's going down through all 8 beads. I want my needle to come out right after the seed beads before the Arcos. On the left-hand side here, I need to pick up this needle, which was on the right, and go through those 5 extra beads. Once your needle is through your beads, you do want to do a little kind of pull to get them nice and tight, that there's no thread exposed. With the needle exiting between the 15s and the Arcos, I'm going to pick up 4 more of that transparent wine color with both the right and the left needle, and I'm going to go through the final open hole of my side Arcos bead. When I'm out the middle of the Arcos, I'm going to add 2 gold 15s and go through the last hole of the Arcos right above. Do the same thing on the other side, adding 4 of my 15s, go through that last hole of the Arcos, add 2 gold, and out the top of the Arcos. When I'm out the top of the Arcos, just like I did here at the base, we're going to add 4 more of our 15s on the right needle and sew up here to the very top of the project. When I get to the top of the project, I'm going to add in my gold 15, just like I did at the base, and sew down that line of 8 15s. This helps to connect them and make a smooth edge the whole way around your Arcos beads. On the left-hand side now, I'll do the same thing, adding 4 more of those transparent wine beads. Now I'm going to go up through all of those beads that just added. And I'm going to get my needle the whole way to the other side. So even though it's a little bit more brain power than just your average peyote stitch, it really does mirror itself the whole way, going up through and having the needles cross towards the top. And because it is a 2-needle project, the same thing that you do on one side, you do on the other. Now that I'm out the side here, I'm out the side near the 15-0s on the right side here. On the left side, I have to go back through those 4 that were just added and out. Once I'm out that outer edge and I have the design around the edge, I get to add in my DiscDuos on the side. Because this is going to be my first component piece, I'm going to add 2 DiscDuos on the sides here. One on the right side and one on the left side. As I continue to add length to or link them together, all the components, I'll actually only be adding 1 of my DiscDuos to each side because I'll be connecting into one that is already there from the previous component that I made. For this first component though, we are going to be adding a DiscDuo on each side. Also, we're going to add our cup button on the end of one of the components. So for the simple start of it, we're just going to be adding our DiscDuo. I'm coming out of those 15s, and I'm going to go down the Arcos, through the gold beads in the middle of the Arcos, and out the Arcos on the other side. So my needle and thread is exiting the Arcos bead. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Take it through the Arcos, through the gold 15s, and exiting the Arcos bead. On the side now, pick up 2 of your transparent wine 15s and 1 of your DiscDuos. You want to make sure that the DiscDuo is facing the same direction, so that way all of the color is consistent and it's facing up. So this is going to be for any of those metallic ice or the slipperit as well. They have kind of a 2-sided look to them. You want to make sure that it's facing the same direction. After my DiscDuo and going through the first hole, I'm going to add 2 more 15s and come back down through those same Arcos beads, same 15, and out that base of the Arcos. So I'm doing a big circle with my thread and pulling that DiscDuo close into the project. I'm going to go back through the 2 beads that I just added on the side before the DiscDuo and then out the DiscDuo. Once I'm on the top of the DiscDuo, here's where I get to add in some of my 11-0 seed beads. If you don't want to use 11-0 seed beads, you could use 3 15-0s as well. I just like the boldness of the 11s. When I was trying this design for the earrings, I like the boldness of the 11s to really stick out against the Arcos bead. So if you want to use 15s, you're more than welcome to. It'll give it a little bit of a daintier connection look. I'm going to be using the 11s, and I want to pick up 3 of those Crystal Labrador 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to reverse the thread from the first hole of that DiscDuo that's closest to my design, going to the second hole of that DiscDuo. Once I'm out there, I'm going to add 3 more of my 11-0s and go back through the first hole. So I'm circling the whole way around that DiscDuo bead. On the left-hand side then here, I'm going through, or I'm sorry, the right-hand side, I'm going through all those 15s, or the 11s, and coming out through that top set of 11-0 seed beads, that top set of 3, I'm coming out of one of those beads. Here's where I'm going to add on my cup button here in that crystal vitrail look. And to add the cup button, I do want to do it with some 15-0s just to get that color, the golden color in the bracelet a little bit more. I'm going to add 4 of my 15-0s in my dark gold color and let those drop down next to my bead. If I were doing and adding to the component here, all I would do is, if you wanted to do it just an earring and have it by itself, I decorated the edge of the DiscDuo on the top for an earring here with just 4 of my 11-0 seed beads. So 4 more instead of the 4 15-0s, I do 4 more 11-0s and go back through that second hole again. To do the component to add my cup button, I have on my 4 15-0s in my gold color. Then I'm going to put on 1 of my 15-0s in the wine color and 3 more 15-0s in my gold. Go up through the base of the cup button, so I'm going in towards the center of the bowl, and then I'm going to add a 15 in my wine color, 1 of my crystals, and a 15-0. That's going to decorate the middle of the bead here just with a little bit of color, and I'm going to come down through the cup button through the other side. Once I'm out the button on the other side, you want to go ahead and add on 3 more of your 15-0s in the golden color. I'm going to take my needle and go back through that transparent wine bead, and that's going to make a V, which is going to support my cup button. You can see that little V there. Coming out the cup button, then 4 more of my 15s go on in the gold color, and I'm going to sew through those 3 11-0 seed beads that I had just added on the sides. Go through the first hole of the DiscDuo closest to the component, and I'm going to reinforce this whole clasp by going back through those original 3 beads, as well as through all of those 15s that I added. Through that baseline, up through the wine color, and the whole way up through the cup button, through the decorative beads at the top, and down the other side. When I get to the other side, I'm going to go down here, all of the beads, and come out towards the base. So I'm going through this wine bead here, and then I'm going to come out towards the base of the project, would be the opposite side that I had started with. As I go through it, I'm going to go through that first hole of the DiscDuo one more time, and then I'm just going to leave my thread hang out there for a minute as I go in to add my DiscDuo on the continuing side. So you can kind of see when I put them here together what the bracelet is going to look like. I am going to add the end here to the component just to show you. So on this side here, if I wasn't connecting to a component, I would add 2 of my 15s in the Y and 1 of my DiscDuos, making sure that it's facing the correct direction. Once I know that it's facing in the correct direction, I add 2 more 15s in the Y. And then I'm going to go back through again that Arcos, 2 15s, and the Arcos. So just like I did when I finished off this side, the only thing that's going to be different, a little bit different, is how we're decorating it. Once you have that nice and tightly on there, go back up through the 15s and the DiscDuo, exiting right at the DiscDuo. When you're at the top of the DiscDuo, that's when we're going to add some of our 11-0 seed beads, which is going to create an open end just like this one here. We're going to add 3 11s, come down the DiscDuo. That's going to pop the 11s on the side, add 3 more 11s, and circle back around through the DiscDuo. I am going to go ahead and just circle around this one more time to reinforce. And it will also get reinforced as we add our next component in. Once I'm exiting the DiscDuo, after circling around completely, I'm going to go back through the 15-0s on this side here, those 2 leading up to the DiscDuos. And then I'm going to go the whole way down the side of those 15s back to get to my original start thread here. So I'm just sewing right along the edge till I can get those 2 start threads together so I can simply tie a knot. Once you have that first component done, you can leave your thread ends on or cut them down a little bit. You're going to go ahead and make 4 more components. The next component I make, I'm just going to link on to the previous one that I created, as well as the link of 3 that I created, and then I'm going to show you guys how to actually end off and create your loop, which is going to be just a repeat of the start as well. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to create 1 more that I'll show you at the connection points here, how to link them on to your pre-existing beads, and then we'll go ahead in and we'll make the closure so that way we have a loop for our cup button. So I have my components ready to add together here, and I have the center component done all except for this side here, adding on the DiscDuos. To add on the DiscDuo, I have my thread and needle coming out of one of my last 15-0 seed beads in that fuchsia color. I'm going to add 2 more seed beads, and you want to make sure if you are using a DiscDuo that has 2 different sides, basically a finish like the mirror one, you want to make sure that you're connecting so that the same side is facing up. So I have 2 beads on my needle, and I'm going to simply sew into the existing DiscDuo that's already there from the previous side. So I'm not adding a new DiscDuo, I'm just sewing into the one that's already hanging out there. When I sew into it, I want to make sure to stay to the bottom of the 11-0 seed beads. So you can see here I'm on the bottom of those 11-0s. So that way when it flips, those 15s kind of sit a little bit recessed in on those 11s. On the other side, 2 of my 15-0s go on, and then I'm going to sew up the next side here. To do a little bit of reinforcing, all I'm going to do is go back down my Arcos here, down through the middle, and come back around, then come out to the side and go back through the DiscDuo. On the other side, same thing. I'm coming out of my 15-0s. I'm going to add 2 of my 15s, go underneath the 11-0s that are already there on the pre-existing little strip of the bracelet that I did here. Add 2 more 15s. I'm going to go in and reinforce. Then coming back through. If you want to, you can go right through the actual Arcos here and then go through the seed beads. Either way really works when you're looking at the connection points. The other comment that I did want to make, as you're looking at this, if you actually turn the project to the side here, you can see that you could do this with 2 needles going the opposite way and kind of crisscross. Just when you get to that middle bead, you would need to come back out. The way that I did it, it does make the bracelet a little bit more reinforced. If you are doing it with 2 needles, starting at the DiscDuo, going through the DiscDuo and just crisscrossing back through, you want to make sure to reinforce the whole entire outer edge, and that's also going to get you your gold beads here on the side and your connection points done. So you can see when you create more little pieces, you can add them together. You can kind of figure out what you're doing. I have 5 pieces here, and my bracelet's actually going to fit really well. If you do have a standard size wrist rather than a small one, you may want to make a 6th component, but I'll finish off just getting my threads to the same end after reinforcing here, tie them off towards the back, and we'll go back to the end here and get ready to do our loop for our cup button. So I'm to the other end here. I've gotten my bracelet completed and I'm getting ready to attach my loop for my cup button end. So I have my 2 needles coming out the very last section here, and I'm coming out the last hole of the outside Arcos. I'm going to do 1 more DiscDuo to mirror the end near the cup button. And again, you want to make sure that this DiscDuo is facing the correct direction. To lead up to the DiscDuo, on my needle here to the right, I want to put on 2 of my pink 15s, just like I've been doing, and go through the first hole of that DiscDuo. On the other needle, pick up 2 15s, and I'm going to crisscross through that same hole of the DiscDuo. Pull that nice and tight, and you get that nice and tight in there right next to your last piece. Right on the edges here we have those 3 11-0s. I'm going to pick up my 3 11-0s with 1 needle, go from the bottom hole to the top hole, and that's going to decorate the side there. Same thing with the other needle, pick up 3 of my 11-0s here in that Labrador color. Go through the second hole as well, with your needles exiting the outermost hole of that DiscDuo. Leading up to my loop, I am going to do 2 more 15s on each side in my pink color. So I have 2 on that one needle and 2 on the second needle here. And now we're going to make our loop. To start making our loop, I'm picking up 1 last crystal. I'm going to do a crystal with a gold bead on either side. So I have a gold bead and a crystal on one needle. And I have a gold bead, and I'm going to sew through that same crystal with my other needle. So both needles are going the same direction through that last little 3mm Preciosa bicomb. That's going to bring it together here at the end right after to kind of mimic the end here where I go ahead and make my loop. For my loop, I'm going to do it in my 15-0s, and I'm going to add about 33 15-0 seed beads in my gold color. Pick up one of your needles, doesn't matter which, right or left, and I'm going to pick up all those little seed beads. If you happen to have one thread that's a lot longer than the other, especially if you did the 2 needle method and just kept adding and adding as you go, you may have one thread that's longer than the other. This is an opportunity just to kind of let one thread hang out there, and you can use the other thread. I'm going to be using both threads after I get my seed beads on. Once you have enough seed beads on to make your loop, we'll reinforce it with the other thread that has been hanging out here. So I have my loop here ready to go. I'm just going to add a couple more seed beads. If you want, you can do a peyote stitch. You could do this in 11 O's. If you're doing 11 O's, you need about 25 seed beads. And once I have my correct number on for my loop, I'm going to take the same needle that's in my hand, go back through that same crystal and down one of the sides of the seed beads, both the gold and that fuchsia color. Give a nice tight pull, pick up the other needle, and reinforce that whole loop that we just created with our 15 O's. Here's the opportunity, if you would want to do that peyote stitch to kind of make the end look a little bit more decorated. I like the simplicity of the 15s for the loop. And I like the gold color as a playoff on the silver cut button. Once I'm down the other end here, I'll go back through the crystal with this second needle. And down the opposite side of the 15-0 in the gold and the fuchsia, picking up both of those beads, or all three of them rather. This is where you can give a nice tight pull, making sure that you have no extra thread showing in your loop. And I'm going to take my needle here on the left side, because there's actually more, go back through that DiscDuo, stay to the bottom of those 11 O's. I like the 11 O's to sit on top and the 15s to kind of sit recessed. So I did that the whole length of the bracelet. I'm going to go back and reinforce this one more time. So there's going to be 3 strands through this whole seed bead clasp. Once I get this 3rd strand through, all I'm going to do is actually tie off the thread ends right next to the DiscDuo here, tucking it towards the back and getting rid of these 2 thread ends right along the back there. So just to show the completed bracelet on, it has a really, really cool feel, and it really is a great combination, I think, of the Arcos and the DiscDuos. They really lend themselves to one another, and that pomegranate color in the middle just really sparkles, just like those blue earrings do as well. So I really like the metallic ice colors for this. Once you have the components done, you can really have fun making more components, checking them out. If you need any of the materials, the Arcos are brand new. You can get them online from us or request them from your local Potomac Bead Company store. They'll be happy to get them in for you. You can also check out your selection of DiscDuos while you're there as well. Again, you can shop with me online at PotomacBeads.com. Go back to the beginning of the video if you want for a little drop down menu for all of the different materials that were used in this, or right below the video there is a little show more button in the details. You can drop that down and we'll give you links to all of the products online as well. You could also share this video with a friend if you know that somebody else has picked up the Arcos at all or has some DiscDuos that they wanted to use. Or you can subscribe to this channel. That way you'll get regular updates when we do different videos, new products that come out, all different stuff will keep you updated as well. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. And if you want sneak peeks of things like this, you can also join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. There we exchange ideas, and I know some people have actually already completed this bracelet before I've even finished the video. So kudos to you as well. And that's where kind of you can get some inspiration to others and really kind of interact with other jewelry designers, ask questions, and have fun interacting with us as well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have fun making the Segovia bracelet.